Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is AmericanMantics. I am your happy healer, Keith Landy. Today's date is July 26th, 2021. Obviously, we say that in obvious terms. We're just waiting for folks to come on, so we'll be getting started in just a moment. And welcome to the program. I am your happy healer lover. Today's date is July 26, 2021. And we do have a good program for you. I just want to make sure that audio and everything here is working okay. I hope you guys are doing great. And if you see here, we have the AmericanMantics banner up. And that's important because we'll be talking a little bit about that. And we left a comment in one of our main Facebook pages and have had a lot of people really resonate with that comment. And it's about the direction and what AmericanMantics means essentially. And yes, it's God's plan, so you're really going to want to stay tuned for what we have going on here. It's so important. And yes, it's God's plan. Okay, so that's great news. We are clear, we are cool, we are under control, and I am, of course, right here with you in the chat, and that's always great news. And I will be, at some point, what we're going to do, and we'll organize it right, is take calls so that you have a chance to actually call in, because I think that's important for any community. But really, it's because we can have that communication, and I think that's important, specifically to what we're talking about, just kind of right off the bat here. But I'm going to talk about a couple of things with you guys, and it gets down to the bare brass of it. Think about things as they are in your community. Think about your life and think about your children's lives. What is it that we're fighting for? What is our end game? What is our goal? We have to have a goal, or we're just as insane as the other side, which they are very insane. And I love my friends on the Democratic side. I'll have to tell you that, because I think they could be and do so much better, but it's going to take for us to have to also change first, I think, in this case, because we have that also magic humility and humble power that is going to be important in this endeavor. And it was never the other side that was our enemies anyway, really. We're having real problems coming from propagandists and from media and from, you already know the problem that the media has been over the Trump presidency, and even before that, we know what it's been. And people are waking up to that, and that's really what the Trump presidency has been about. And we know that there's so many of us who were so upset for so long and really wanted somebody to get in there and shake the system up. And that doesn't make these folks bad people. It doesn't make them racist, the things that the Democrats really have been saying. And you could say they're being hateful, and that's their ideology. And we've heard that before said of them. And one thing that we have to be so careful in is we don't become the same problem that we already see is causing the devil in his case to win. Because remember, the way we're looking at this is very pragmatic. We're all God's people, and we're trying to save our world from the devil. It's that simple. And we have serious problems in that regard because our own people have turned on us in so many ways. And that's what you're seeing in the soft civil war, unfortunately. That isn't anybody's fault except for those who have really done that greed the most, and it wasn't enough just having mansions and running the world, that we know there's nefarious actors, and all we can do is say, this is not the world we intend to live in, and to change it. And so that's what this program is, AmericanMantics. The whole system is about changing that, giving us a chance, giving God's people the upper hand, because we got to have the upper hand. We're going to get the upper hand, folks. Don't you doubt God Almighty's power, because God is a good God, and I assure you of that, because he will go the distance and come back again every time, no matter what the situation. And that's because we have a loving creator, and our almighty creator is an almighty lover. And it brings me to an awness when I think about our creator, when I think about what we were all meant to be, the value and the purpose, the human values. Look at how babies today, they're killed like they have no value at all. And abortion is wrong. And we should do something in order to put human values front and center. But it doesn't just stick with abortion. There's so many other things that it takes to get human values right. And as long as the devil's constantly fighting against us, it's weakening our power. It's weakening our capability to be able to get big things done. And that's what this is about. The Democrats are always talking about getting big things done. Now think about the brilliance in using God's plan and saying this is God's world. If you expect to have the things you want, well, then you can't do the devil's world and have those things. That's what that's saying. And that's logical. And I think any person of faith would agree with that. And that we can only ever do when we respect the gifts that come out of God's world, and that we are able to capitalize on them in the best possible stance, not being kicked down and held back in the very process of making progress. And that is what this soft civil war is doing, and Americans are falling victim to it. And doing God's work is about seeing the light of truth. It's about seeing the heart's compassion. You can't go wrong when you put those two together. Trust me in this. Think about your family. And I always say, be idealistic. Don't think like a pessimist. Think about God's world. What can we do in God's world? And then you'll know what we can accomplish. And that's our goal. That's our goal. There's hope for people who can't see the difference, and that we want to bring about the world they too want, and they have to wake up and make love and truth their religion, or we are finished. And at this point, I'm doing all I can for God. And what can I say, and what can they do so that they can fix that? Because we can do so much better. We don't have to be that way. There's always a better way to be. And doing it in with God's plan, then you're pulling on that strongest power. And it's the world they want too. But that's it. They have to wake up and make love and truth their religion, or they really are finished. And at this point, I am going to go the distance. And what can I say if these folks get in the way of even my life's work? And I just say to them, sorry you got to be that way. And it's so sad, because I was only ever for you. I wanted the best for you. And you got mad that I was friends with somebody that you hate? But we need to bring all sides together to one vibrant, capable unity that gets major work done that's good for you, me, and us all. And you're so slow about it. You've got slow thinking and you're slow-minded, and it gets in the way, and it gets in the way of your own progress. It's hard for me to watch that. Let us, God's people, see about bringing in the new world. Allow God's people to do that heavy lifting, and allow yourself to come along with it. Why? Because it's God's plan of love and truth, obviously. That's reason enough for true believers who realize that greed hell is the devil's world, and it's no way God's people should be living. It's hell on earth. It's our job to bring about heaven on earth. This is God's plan. Trump, he's part of that plan. And you also are a part of that plan. And you are needed, and so am I. Now, I just say let's discuss this further, and that this is what the goal of AmericanMantics is. The romantic belief in a better America formed from God's version. Yes, it's an idealistic world. Shouldn't it be, though? Of course it should be. Because this is God's creation. And we had no business turning it over to the devil in the first place. Greed is that devil that we need to take all this back from, and that's what making America great and keeping America great looks like. And that's what your HappyHealer lover knows, that if we are to ever make what's right and true and just for the people who I love in this world, and that's you, then that's what we must do. Otherwise, this hell never stops. The rancid arguing and the division, that was the plan all along. And it's working for our enemies. And we have a spiritual enemy on top of it. And don't we know we can beat that spiritual enemy? And I don't want to sound like I am coming off as a preacher, but I do love to preach, and I love God Almighty because I know what we can do together with His power and glory and grace. That's our weapon. It's our love and our truth. And using logic and being strong and dedicated and disciplined and using honesty and hard work, going the extra mile, staying true to the cause and not giving up, because we are God's people. That's what we do. We do it every day. And we take the hard knocks. We get up early and we stay up late. And we do it because we love. We're lovers and we care. So don't let anybody tell you that you're a racist when you know you're not, that you're a lover. But express love and be radiant about it. Don't allow hate to consume your heart. That's not you. And that's not your better life. That's not what you were intended to be. Today, you are God's. We are all God's, working for God, making a better world for us, His creation, His loving creation, our almighty creator, who is an almighty lover. Yes, so I want to share with you, my fellow family, so much of this consequential but helpful facts about who we are and what our mission is, and how we can't allow ourselves to miss the mark. Not when we can so easily make it with the powers that we possess. Our belief, our faith, our love. So I do hope you're doing great today. It is 7:15 p.m. And there really are so many wonderful things going on with the AmericanMantics process and drive. And right now I am in Orlando, Florida, your Happy Healer lover. And this is Happy Force Mini, so we'll be going around the country also eventually, and I'll be keeping you abreast as to when I'll be passing through different areas, because I have lovers and friends and people all over the country, and I will be looking to make opportunities for each of us to have little meetups and groups and coming together in ways that are really meaningful. And so look forward to that. And I know many of you are already would be super excited about that kind of stuff, because you're lovers and you care about each other, and you're a part of this, and you understand what we're all working for. And I'm proud of you, and it's grateful. My position is so very grateful to be in a position that brings people together, and for the essence of working for God Almighty in a better world. And what I want to show you now, and I put it together for you, and just to remind you a little bit about what we're doing and where we're at. First up, Trump. He's been out lately. He's been talking a lot about what challenges we're facing, the southern border, talking about fuel prices going up for most people. It's gone up quite a bit, almost double. For some people, even more. And that is such a tax on life. I feel your pain. And this is going to be something we'll continue to discuss, about the rising cost of living for people who don't get a raise and live on a fixed income and have to deal with these increased costs. And it's not right, especially at a time when there's so much fraud and corruption. Money's being spent on projects that don't even bother helping Americans. Each one of these people coming across the southern border is one less person in our own country we can help. As it is, your Happy Healer lover lives in a van, and this is what they're doing. They're sending people across the border, and we have to pay for that. We have to put them up, in some cases put them on buses or planes or what have you, a train, in order to transport them all over the country to set them up in lives, at least for the next year, getting acclimated with languages that they don't speak, and custom that they're not used to, perhaps. I mean, they come from a completely different ideological belief in some cases, and they are from some cases even socialist countries or communist countries. And so now we have to teach them how to be good at democracy. And I mean, this is an expensive endeavor. Not saying that not everybody's God's people, we all are, but we have to also respect what America is, so we could be what our role is in God's plan. And God does have a plan. And we have to take care of what Americans are dying and suffering. I mean, what we're doing is cutting off our ability to do anything at all. It's like we're getting ourselves at the jugular. It's crazy. And it's what we're doing. And it bothers me, because we could be doing so much for the problems that we have in order to treat people right. These senior citizens who are not getting raises in their checks, but are having increased costs everywhere they go. It's real concerns. And as your Happy Healer lover, I concern myself when it comes to people who are suffering and they can't speak up for themselves, including the babies. So important. They can't even speak at all. And of course, everybody else. And of course, the elderly. I want to see about a world that delivers to the elderly like never before. I want to make them the beautiful citizens they are, because that's what they should be, and that's how they should be respected. And so that's what's built in AmericanMantics, and it makes all that possible and so much more. And I don't think anybody lives for dying. I think people live for growing out and being a part of community and being a part of life and that love. And that's what AmericanMantics is. And so we can't allow ourselves to, you gotta, if you're talking about God's plan, then you have to give yourself the benefit of the doubt to walk up to it with a fresh slate of thinking and what can be done in God's plan. You can't think along the lines of what was done in Greed Hell's world. That's a world that makes a lot more, what would you say, sacrifices. God's people always have to make more sacrifices because they're God's people in the world of hell. But the truth is, we're supposed to do God's work. And doing God's work is being a lover like your HappyHealer lover and bringing about what ultimately is God's plan. And God's plan is one that takes care of God's people. And so it can go the distance. And I remember telling somebody once, because they said, that sounds a lot like what, a socialist would do. Or I say, no, it's not. You haven't even heard it. So what I say is, understand that we're going 50 years in progress because God's plan not only is vast, but it moves fast. And so why am I mentioning this now? Because it goes back to me for the senior citizens. They're treated so horribly, and I know that we could do so much better for them. And they're suffering of disease. I mean, folks want to live a long and happy life. They never get tired of living. And it should be about for us to build that long and happy opportunity for life for God's elderly folks who have so much wisdom and life to share with people. This is where the people commodity comes in. We sell ourselves too short. We sell our senior citizens too short. They are not done at life. They are pivotal to life. They have so much to share. And this is what I'm focused on. Human values in the world of God. And that's how God would do it. That's how Jesus would do it. Jesus is a great character to follow. You do love and you do honesty and truth. And Jesus turns the other cheek when it comes to his brother and his sister. And he gets it right. All right, I want to show you a video that we played, and we played it recently, and I think you'll remember it because it was about President Trump, who is part of God's plan, which you see, we are all part of God's plan. It is God for us to bring to, I know for one thing, each one of us are to live our own, what we are compelled to do on behalf of God. And when we feel that when we're compelled to do something and we don't do it, then that becomes an integrity issue. And so I say to folks, what feels right when you know it's good and when it's for God, then you have a faith and you have a reason that goes beyond just the shallow reason you typically do anything in this world. Are you going to leave that up? Are you going to forget that? I don't think so. I know I wouldn't. And that's how we get to build the great new world. And that's what it is. That's what AmericanMantics is. And then people say, oh, well, that's not practical. This is the mocking devil. In the Greed's world, and I have to get this out because I could just hear some of you. In Greed's world, which is the devil's world, Greed Hell, it's got powers, just like God's world has powers. We know God's powers, love and truth, and from that, it comes with a bunch of other sub-powers, like courage and ambition and good principles and hard work and stuff that make you so powerful in that world. But the devil's world has powers too. And under greed, it has hate, for one. And fear is a big power that the devil uses that's under greed. Greed is the main force that the devil uses, of course. That's like the one I see at the very top. And then underneath that, there's all these sub-forces. And there's just so many of them. And the same thing on God's side. And basically, you want to be able to be cognizant of these various forces and what's happening. Because how could you, in the devil's world, where these forces of greed and what comes with it, all this fear and subsequent hell, really, how can you be as successful in such a world? Whereas in a world that has love as our benefactor, love is our motivator. That's what these are. They're motivation forces, and there's two of them. There's good and there's bad. There's God and there's the devil. There's greed, right? And there's hate and there's love and there's courage. And greed and fear, really. That's how I'd see that. Greed and fear and love and courage. And so these are the opposite forces that are at play. Before you get into, what people argue about isn't even the greatest concern right now. What the greatest concern is that spiritual battle, the one between goodness and darkness, God and the devil. It's happening in mankind and in our hearts and souls. And right now we're losing it. And how do we know? Because God's truth, the world that we witness, tells us so. And love should guide our world and change the entire picture, because it's God's energy together with truth and love. This is the essence of God. All religions, and they don't agree on a lot, but they do agree on one thing, that God is love and truth. Think about that. And so the truth is there for all people to see. And the devil is still in charge of this world, and we know that. I don't think anybody, even bothers to try to argue that. But we can't stay in the devil's world. This is insane. People we love are in this world. And we have to do, this is what doing God's work is. And then what we get to do is, why we could do so much more in God's world is because we're coming out of the world of scarcity, where we're limited. And because we're limited, we can't truly be free. Remember, they trick you at freedom, by the way. Freedom is not taking somebody and plucking them in a desert and saying, there, go be free in a desert. You got nothing, no sustenance, no water, no land, no vegetation. That's not freedom. Freedom is when you have sustenance. Freedom is when you have ability and you can travel about. I'll tell you what, I live in a van. I live to the very small corridor of where I can on earth. There are so many places on earth that's taken up. No, mine, my land. So let's not talk about how great freedom is in greed hell when we're comparing it against God's world. And one thing you see about greed hell is when these opposing powers come together in this civil war, the thing that's happening is we're losing more and more of our freedoms. So this is what the devil is. The devil's out for one thing and one thing only at the end of the day. The devil is out for death. Greed is a death force. Greed is about depressing life and making life so least to live. Like people, Kevin goes out there and makes $20 million. On the other hand, you have somebody who can't even get food for that day. And this disparity is just wrong. And we are the richest country in the world. This is exactly what you would see in the devil's house. And people dying on a street and the death that comes from this fear also. People who have, their biggest fear is that they don't end up like those who don't have, and that they're the ones on the streets dying. And the devil just lets you die. Nobody cares. That's the problem with greed hell, is that nobody cares. And so God has a plan. It's about the caring world. And so if these mocking devils, which again is one of their powers, it goes right under greed with all the sub-powers. They use mocking as one of them. They don't have courage and truth, so they use what they got. Liars. They got lying. That's great. They're not the honest truth tellers. They can't ever actually do love the right way. So they feign love. They fake love to get what they want. This is how the devil works. And it uses that mocking power. It breaks down what is actually true. It mocks any attempt at doing God's world. Because the notion, one thing that greed hell does great, it steals everything love does. Love is the only force that creates. It's the passion force. It's the reason why scientists are scientists, to do better and create for the world. It's the reason why your HappyHealer lover is here preaching, because he's a lover. And guess what? That's what runs the real fire in people. But then greed comes along and steals it all, and then makes a mockery of the power of love. And it says that love shouldn't even be a paid force. It's just a free thing. It's just this free old thing that doesn't matter at all. I mean, you can give yourself and dedicate yourself to love all day long. It just pays zero. That's the only thing about it in greed hell. And the thing about it is, love is the strongest force, and it gives back the very most when doing God's work. But in the land of greed hell, it's about constantly breaking that notion down. Again, that mocking devil. Oh, love's not possible. You can't do that stuff. Don't you know what they're saying when they say that? They say that's not possible because you can't do that. You're not advanced enough. Yeah, there's the higher class. They are advanced, but you're not advanced enough. So we'll have like 2 worlds. Heck, why stop there? We'll have 10 worlds where a really, really high class followed by a bunch of other classes in between. Isn't that what we have in greed hell, the devil's world? It's unbelievable. And yet people, all they want to do is love. And where is their love? A lot of people are feeling lonely and they check out. I just lost a brother 3 months ago. Love is the difference between life and living healthy and not. It's that simple. People lose their love and they fall out of this world. You see it all the time. Love is a powerful force. It's the life force. And it's God Almighty. That's why it's so powerful. And so that's why we have to do God's work in this world. And that's why we have to improve our lives doing God's work. Because it makes life itself better. Okay, I want to share this with you. And this is I'm gonna share with you the Trump video that where we weren't sure if he was running. I'm gonna run that and then I'll come back and speak on it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I am your HappyHealer lover, and today is just another great opportunity to wish our great country a happy birthday, and to you a happy 4th of July. We have an amazing, outstanding show for you. It's all based on Donald Trump, former President Trump, and his coming back out in the public spotlight. We're going to cover exactly what those messages mean to you, what messages indeed they are, and how everybody's going to be affected by Donald Trump and his forthright forthcoming. Up next is Donald Trump speaking with Sean Hannity about what his plans are coming up soon. And, well, you'll just have to listen to get a feel for what he means.
We don't have a lot of time, but let's talk about your future plans. Now, I have a funny... Let me ask the crowd of everybody here, would you like to see the president run again in 2024?
And did you also notice how they were giving him a standing ovation?
Again in 2024.
Just how much Trump appreciated it, saying thank you. Now Trump comes back and they're going to talk about his plans for 2024.
You're not going to answer, but I have to ask. Where are you in the process of, let me ask you this, without giving the answer what the answer is, have you made up your mind?
Yes.
Well, there you have it. It sounds like Donald Trump will be running once again for 2024. And folks, happy Independence Day from your Happy Healer lover and from all of us here at AmericanMantics. God bless you, and we'll see you soon. Oh, that was just fantabulous. And you know something? I was watching recently, and so the reports are that he did not officially announce yet. So that was not an announcement. If you noticed, Sean Hannity was saying, well, I know you're not going to say it, but would you say at least if you made your mind up? And he said, yes, I made my mind up. And since he's done some rallies where he's spoke to the American people, but mainly about the problems we're having right now and about future elections, things of that nature, I don't really see him talking about his own run too much about in definitive terms. In fact, this is where I'm going with this. In his last appearance, in fact, I had heard him speaking to the crowd where he had said that he hadn't made that completely up yet, that decision. So I would hate to end on the conclusion that he's actually decided to run, especially if he has not yet decided to run, even though if it was up to us in our group, we certainly hope he runs, and we can pray for that, and of course pray for God's will to happen. Because what's most important is that we get to a world of God's world. We get to that God's world, this world of AmericanMantics, this world of love. And one of the great things that I've done in the work that I've reached out to and spoke to the campaign of Donald Trump is because I want to share with him ideas that I know that would bring the country together. And in 2016, your Happy Healer did just that. And if you go back to programs I was making back then, in 2017, in fact, I talked directly to Donald Trump via YouTube, of course, because sometimes it's hard to get that access, as you can imagine. But I wanted to go on record. And I did reach out to the campaign, and I did also make that video. And I spoke about ways that we could bring the country together so that we can have a unity, so that we can overcome the fake Russia collusion that I felt at the time was tearing the country apart, and so that we could do amazing things that not even Barack Obama, the anointed one on the left, could do, and bring the country together, having a newfound power that would allow us to do so many more things. And I wasn't called upon, and so I continue to reach out in that way and share these ideas, and that's what AmericanMantics is. It's actually for the first time putting it in a plan such as AmericanMantics. And next, what I want to share with you is, and it's no secret, most folks here know that I have also ran for president, inspired by God Almighty and by President Trump. He's the one who I do believe is doing God's plan by opening up the door and by making it possible for this world that I so desperately want to see happen. And that without having had Donald Trump, you don't get that world. That's clear. And God's plan is something that unfolds itself. It's a beautiful thing. And I pay attention to it. It's all about love, and it's all about coming together, and it's about this unity that we talk about. the unity that's worth having, the unity that changes everything, that beats the devil back. Remember, the difference between a good Democrat and a bad Democrat is one that changes into a Republican, right? How about just one we get along with, that we have common ground with, that we look so far into the future, we could find a future that's worth living for everybody, that's much better than what we have now, and we can go there with discipline and dedication, and that we could do love on the way, that we can care about one another. And that's what AmericanMantics is essentially about. It's about making massive progress fast. It's about inspiring people to be their very best. It's about giving God the credit for everything. It's one nation under God, and respecting that, and realizing that you can't even begin to have freedom unless you put God's plan into play, because otherwise you have this duopoly situation where two parties are trying to kill each other for power, and people are left as the pawn, and they're doing the dying, and there's like this 10-class system where if you're at the bottom, you're dying, and if you're at the top, you're like, meet Kevin. It's just unbelievable. And each side is not caring about the other, and each class is not caring about the other. There's no love there. It's wrong. Essentially, it's immoral. It's not the way God's world is supposed to be. And so it is not God's world. We know that. We know it by what it delivers. And what it delivers is greed hell. Greed runs the world. And we don't hide that. We acknowledge that. Our market's run by greed and fear. And it's still wrong, because they could ultimately run on love and courage. Somebody might say, what do you mean markets running on love and courage? Well, the truth is, if you had a market that was focused on progress, and that people were empowered with ownership and ability, and that this market was consistently going up because the corruption is cut out, people are taken care of. I mean, this is a full and complete plan. We're abolishing, more or less, poverty. And again, mocking devils will laugh at that. You can't let them. This is God's plan. This is about care, and care goes the distance. Yes, people at the bottom, and it shifts around. Sometimes it's going to be you at the bottom. Sometimes you're at the top. But the point is, everybody's worthy of care. And folks who realize our value and our sacred reason for living get that. And this is God's world. It was robbed by the devil, just like the devil robs everything else. The only thing the devil can ever take and resell is that which it stole in the first place. And I don't want to get into that. I'll be in that for a long time if I do. And it's okay, because that essentially is what AmericanMantics has been built on. The values and virtues of your happy healer lover. And that is what happy healing is. That was a journey I went on for 10 years, and I learned a lot through that journey. I found God through that journey, and got very close with God. And I think each one of us could respect that personal journey with our Creator, because we all have such a special relationship. And faith is such a beautiful thing when you have it. And what's even more beautiful is when you can gift it to others. And that's what your happy healer is so particularly good at, is gifting faith to others, because we all deserve to have faith. And that's why I also like to preach about the truth. The truth is an exciting one. I know a lot of people get pessimistic. Like I said, there's these mocking devils who don't believe that greatness is possible. And usually these folks are really just talking from a place of fear and greed. These folks already have a heck of a lot. And I already know from this perspective of thinking, because I have been there. I have also had a lot at points in my life. I've had a lot. And I understand, see, because I'm smart. And I've ran businesses, and I understand business, and I run a business now. And I have done all kinds of things throughout my life that help give me that insight. and I understand the value of a human being, and why, ultimately speaking, it comes down to two things for self-employed people. Either you're working, and if you're working a vibrant, good, and valuable and profitable business, you always have to answer the calling between business or home. Do your experiences matter more, or does your quest to make more money matter more? There's always this phenomena for this particular person to deal with. And the problem that they're dealing with is that money matters more than people do in greed hell. And so now it's their personal belief that they matter going versus the other belief that business matters. If it doesn't make dollars, it don't make sense. There's two competing ideologies. So it comes down to, you live in a world where experiences matter and you have sacred purpose and value ordained to you by your creator, and therefore that's why you matter, or that if it doesn't make dollars, it don't make sense, including all the wonderful experiences you want to have in this world and in this lifetime. I don't agree with it, but it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. What I want to share with you now is a video that I had done when I was in front of some Trump supporters back at a Trump rally right here in Orlando, Florida. And like I said, I love Trump supporters. I am a Trump supporter. I have been since the beginning. And I recognized his need in God's plan. The fact that he was obvious to me that clearly. I speak with the great Lord, and I understand when he's speaking back. That was easy to see. And I was on board with that early on because I knew we needed change, and we needed somebody that was going to help propel that change. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to have this crazy dueling dragon war ever end. That's taking away our freedom. That's taking away our hope and making life impossible to make progress in. And that is ultimately the saddest truth, because people are themselves great on all sides, really. They're being played by systems and their backgrounds. We are all from the same culture, so it's really just what side you got thrown on. It's just so bad in some ways. The fact of the matter is, the devil is working his magic like never before when it comes to creating division in this country. And I understand that logic is mostly owned by the Republican Party, and that we support Trump because he has a way with logic that just speaks frank. And, in this world of greed hell, we needed somebody that was like that, tough and able to kick butt. And I just can't see how else it would have been possible. And so to that, I am forever grateful to President Trump for. And so I enjoy getting out in front of the crowds. And when I ran my campaign, when I got in the race, it was because God's plan. I see this so clearly, bringing people together and really moving life forward faster, making faster progress for people who matter, because we're not doing good enough, and along all areas. And we're talking everything from economical to scientific. We're going to have all kinds of progress. And talking to God's people about that, they actually get it. Trump people get it. And that's because I am a Trump person. And it's because I come from that flock. And God's people, this is how I see it. And that I want you to see, when I was at this rally and I was speaking to some of Trump's people, and some of my own people, of course. Check it out. Hold on, I'm putting it in now. I might... Okay. That looks right. Alright.
How many people are here for the Happy Healer? Anybody? The worst aspects of the human spirit. How are you, sir? God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. They say that everything's great. And the people who like the system now, they're scared too. They're suffering. They see everyone else suffering even worse, and they step back. They say, oh, I'm lucky. They really want a dream.
Hey, go, brother.
Who do you support for president? You're here for Trump. Because here's my goal. My goal is to turn Trump people. Well, I'm a lot younger. I'm 40. But here's the goal.
What's your name?
I'm Keith Landy. I'm running on the Democratic side for the Keith Landy. And the best way to find me, folks, is HappyHealerForPresident.com. Happy Healer for President. This country needs a happy healer. That's why you're Happy Healer. That is to say, me, Keith Landy.
Okay, folks, I do want to just jump right in there right quickly and say to you, this was such an amazing opportunity for me to meet so many wonderful people. And what was I going to say right then? Yeah, I'm just going to put it back.
Landy is running for president because we...
Oh, that's right. It doesn't even mean much to myself, but I know how some of you are moved by it. And I was running as a Democrat. I was always a Democrat. I came from a Democratic Party in order to join Trump. That was, and I think there's a lot of people like that. So I'm pretty middle of the road. That always has given me very good eyesight for what's happening. And quite naturally, I've pulled away from a lot of the Democratic views that have become racist and essentially against the things that I've always believed. And I do believe there's also a recognition in the Republican Party that it's the party of logic more so than anything else. It understands that God's people are important and that freedoms are important. I think that that's the binding thing that brought a lot of Democrats over during a time when there was all kinds of talk. People being, again, fear is a driver in greed, hell. So what we're seeing is a lot of fear baiting and spreading fear based on the lie and the belief that some people in this country are just like a very large number of people are racist, and that's unbelievable. They're lovers. I mean, sure, we all have problems, but we overcome it through love. And they're miscategorizing what we are. They're misinterpreting the energy we use, and they're using the devil's energy by doing that, and by driving a wedge between people and by lying to them. And so one thing that we have to do, being God's people, in order to beat that, is by showing ourselves to be lovers, by using God's energy, being so honest. Later, we always feel good about it. One thing I always tell people about love and truth and how effective it is, one of the reasons it's so effective is because sometimes in the moment you want to say something because you're angry and you know you're right, and it just irks you. But you know what? When you act in love and truth, you're always doing the right thing, and later on you don't regret your action. Because later on, when you act in ways that might be at the time feeling like it was making you feel good, sometimes those acts bring men to do things that get them thrown in prison for the rest of their lives. Like, it's really important to check ourselves. Well, that's the extreme. In the not extreme, But just as effective is when, in small ways, that we can bite our tongue and we can allow ourselves to win when that winning is loving every time, and how it makes us feel. Never mind about the person we'll never see again, likely, but rather that we has shared love, expressed love, and received love. That's God's energy. Okay. Back to this programming.
We have serious times and we need serious people to solve those serious issues. And what we have right now are people who are focused on their own greedy agenda, their own political agenda, their own ideas, with a tight lip and no open ears and no open mind and no love. Where is the capacity to have love gone? We're the 25% of the global economy, yet 5% of the world's population. You better believe the American spirit has ingenuity. You better believe the American story is one of an exceptional one. But yet look where the American stands today. And yes, I've seen him. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the drug addiction and the drug epidemic in this country too. It's not funny how they turn the world upside down on us. Well, in this campaign, we're going to right upside that world, and we're going to write up the rightful dream to the American people that provides the health care for the people that they need, that provides an income for all, $5,000 for a family of four, that provides the essence of life and the appreciation of life, one that says to take humanity first, you have to have common sense humanity policies. You can't just say what's right for the Democrats or what's right for the Republicans. You got to have an agenda that's for humanity. And humanity in America, we matter. We matter. They're trying to tell us we don't matter, or they're trying to tell us that their agenda is more important, that they're trying to confuse us, but we matter. Don't let them tell you no different. We matter. You matter, I matter, we all matter. That indeed is why I call myself the Happy Healer, because we have so much hate in this country, because we have to spend this time spreading love and talking about the truth that other people are not willing to talk about. They have no courage, folks. These are truths that you likely never heard before.
All right. It's pretty intense, and as you can see, I am just a God's lover and quite reserved these days, but I'm a passionate guy. And what we have to recognize, and we're going to go ahead and each day, by the way, we run Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 7 p.m. sharp. You can count on it. Your Happy Healer will be here. And we're building our community. We're building it outward. And we hope to make a difference in bringing about the world of AmericanMantics, which is God's world. And so that's why you've seen, let's bring in focus. Thank you. And that's why you have seen this banner up, because we don't want to be lost on what we're doing and the pivotal aspects of God's plan as your Happy Healer sees it. And President Trump is central to that plan, having made it all possible. And of course, we're still waiting to hear what he's going to do. But I know what I felt compelled to do in the past. And I know what I feel compelled to do now. And what I feel compelled to do now is share AmericanMantics. God bless you. Good evening. And I'll see you on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. sharp.